My name is Ryo Endo, and I am the cinematographer for the psychological thriller Canary. Canary is a short film set in a remote cabin in the mountains with a story about a group of high school boys' survival in a post-apocalyptic world. Despite this world being ravaged by giant spider-like creatures, what is unique about this story is that it's not about these monsters who attack the Earth, but the drama and the social environment surrounding the protagonist, Alan, inside the cabin. As the movie goes on, we see what the real monster is. The first thing I worked on as a cinematographer was to find ways to create the feeling of being isolated from the usual society. So, everything was filmed from the inside of the cabin, and the composition-wise, when I shot the protagonist Alan, I kept him surrounded by things to give some close to feeling. Alan is a character that hardly speaks throughout the short, so we used the visuals as a means of communicating his emotional and mental state. A shallow depth of field was used to separate him from his surroundings, and we achieved that claustrophobia with the blur distortion that comes naturally with anamorphic lenses. When it came to anamorphic lenses, we were fortunate enough to use the Atlas Orion series lens. These anamorphic lenses provided a look that is reminiscent of the old Hollywood movies, and going into the making of this psychological horror, I wanted to pay homage to classics through both Canary's cinematic language and anamorphic look. Altogether, it is a look that is different from our daily life, and the Atlas Orion has the finest distortion I wanted, not too much or too little. The Atlas lenses also captures details in the dark scenes too, especially helpful considering that a lot of the story takes place during the night and in the dark. With the only thing outside of the cabin, the flashback scene inside the car. I wanted to achieve a dreamy look to differentiate how the boys live in the present versus how they lived before the apocalypse. Additionally, to create the power dynamic, we kept the breeze more brightly lit while choosing the shots that show the darker side of Alan's face. In making this film, I chose Red Gemini, which performs well in low-light settings with its low-light sensor sensitivity mode. The sensor allowed me to achieve clean images in dark scenes without unwanted noise. Other equipment included Tiffany's Black Promise filters, which worked well with the lenses, as well as O'Connor Tensari DS tripod, being able to handle the weight of the camera and lens while still being easy to maneuver. And thanks to the lens being rather light, we were able to fix the setup up to an easy rig value 5 for some handheld shots as well. Canary takes place mostly in a cabin in the mountains, isolated from urban cities, meaning its atmosphere is obviously different from our reality, but the human drama within the story still has the same drama as we had. We kept that drama personal by building out the look of the film through the protagonist's warped world view, which translated into a warped, mesmerizing background that the Atlas Orion anamorphic lenses provided. We used quick rock focus in moments when our protagonist snaps back to reality. The world-bending distortion, known as breathing effect, achieved by anamorphic lenses lack focus, helped us create a visual transformation much bigger and dynamic than what spherical lenses can. The scene that the Atlas Orion lens was utilized most was the kitchen scene, with the candlelight and moonlight. It is such a small space, and Alan, the protagonist in the foreground, is dominated by the bully physically and visually. The composition is beautiful and is achieved by the lens. I particularly love how the jagged edges of the makeshift barricades along the windows are out of focus, backlit by the sunlight or the moonlight depending on the time of the day. The compressed images of the silhouette look even more distorted and haunting, as if looking at the blurred out image of branches of a dead tree. My favorite scene is the flashback scene. We experimented with shooting the outside of the car following it on the actual road at night on test shoot. However, after some discussions, we decided to try the poor man's process, setting up the rear projection for an interior shot and shaking the car as if it was moving. We shot the landscape for each angle with a simple car rig and gimbal. Then, we projected the video on the 20x20 solid in the studio and filmed all the dialogue sequences inside the car. The bokeh made the projected image more realistic than I expected. Practically speaking, the Orion anamorphic lenses gave the projection of the streets a more organic look, making it harder to spot instances that makes the background look fake. This is seen specifically with beautiful soft rooms around candlelight and rays of light through fog. The cumulative effect visually separates the dominant forces from the weaker prey. While the rear projection for the car scene was challenging, the biggest challenge was in shooting the cabin. It was an actual cabin in the woods, about 2 hours out from Los Angeles. Since it wasn't a studio kind of set, we were so limited in space, and camera placements had to be chosen wisely, otherwise the camera would get stuck in the corner. The same was true for lighting. We hooked LED tubes on the old cabin ceiling to create the kind of dim, claustrophobic atmosphere we were going for. We had good teamwork and communication, so we could overcome those difficulties. We needed to plan each shot with greater care since we had limited space and wished to maximize the potential of the lenses. Our team consisted of mostly young filmmakers who were very cooperative and excited because they knew they were making a film with an anamorphic look they grew up admiring and wanting to use in productions they were part of. While the storyboarding and pre-production process was fun, being able to use the lenses during production and see immediately the cinematic look it created up front was very fulfilling. The view through the camera with the lens looked different from how I see the world with my own 2 eyes, meaning there was a Canary world existing inside the camera already. That was exactly what we wanted. The strength with the lenses that I haven't really mentioned before is that it is so affordable for an anamorphic lens. I cannot get that quality of lenses for that price. For the purposes of a short independent film, it was a very budget-friendly lens. Atlas was generous enough to provide 6 different types of lenses, which helped us create a consistently otherworldly atmosphere no matter the lens size. Atlas very actively posts sample footage shot by independent filmmakers for DIY level projects, so we knew the lenses would help us achieve pro level images with our camera and lighting gear available to us. Overall, the lenses were easy to use, the ring smooth, flawless, and not too heavy for its size. Atlas lens was very supportive of our production and worked around our somewhat irregular production schedule. They were always there to help, and it felt like they were genuinely excited about our project. Thank you so much for this opportunity. We would love to work with the Atlas team again and encourage indie filmmakers to consider their lenses as well. Thank you.